Good afternoon. It's Tuesday and 7 o'clock at night. We are back for one more show of the neighborhood news. As you know, for the past 4 years, a little over 4 years now, every Tuesday night you can turn your channel 95 and watch our show. If you are watching this show and it's not a Tuesday night, it's because you're watching a repeat show. So please come back next Tuesday and we will have a brand new show for you. Don't forget our Portuguese show, Amigos, will air on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock at night, for those that speak Portuguese. And today I have a very special guest today on studio with me, and that's Katrina Benner. She's not just my guest today, but she will be co-hosting the show with me. As you know, I have had many co-hosts here, and if I'm gonna bring back those times, I started this show together with John Sylvia. John Sylvia was with me for a couple of years, then he moved on. He had a job in Boston, and it was not, the times was not working for him. Then I moved on, and I had, for a little while, I had Faust Fiore. And Faust moved on to his new job, working for the mayor.
Very good.
Then I had Bernadette. She was at the City Hall, working for immigration department at City Hall, but she was our secretary on the association. And now I move on to another step, and I have with me Katrina. Thank you for accepting this challenge, and I hope that you can stay as long as you want. I'm only going to move on when you say that you had to go.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I hope to say as long as you'll have me.
Katrina, this, and it's funny because she was working on our last event at the block party, and I saw her working, and I said, you know something, maybe this will work if I ask her. You know, I mean, cannot hurt to ask. So I went to her and I asked her, what do you do on Tuesday nights? You know, it's like, can we have a date on Tuesday nights? And, you know, because I have this show, and she said, yes, I will love to try. I will love to be there, and here she is. And so our show is pretty much, we give it the name of the neighborhood news, but
like
could be anything. Could be anything that we think that's interest for the community to know. Any neighborhoods. We always invite the other neighborhoods here, because that was the intent, was the neighborhood news, was the intent to bring the other neighborhoods in. Yes. So they could update us on the events they do, problems going on the neighborhood. So this would be another way to get into people's houses. Other than that, we can talk about anything, including politics, because a lot of people try to stay away from politics, but the way I see politics is just opinions. Right. And everybody has an opinion, and we always find a way to agree to disagree, and we always still can go for another coffee and donuts the next day. You
Absolutely,
know?
yes.
we don't become enemies because we're not.
Right, because we have different views.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's know a little bit about Katrina.
Well, I am a Fall River native. I went to Talbot Middle School. I also went to Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School in Fall River for drafting. I had dropped out for a while because family and life called. You know, a lot of the things that we experienced as a youth in Fall River affected my standpoint at that time. And then I got my GED at BCC in Fall River, and now I go to Rhode Island School of Design in Providence, where I study printmaking. Mm-hmm. And I also work for MIT for their research study as a resident researcher, and that's connected with the Conservation of Law Office and the YMCA and some other organizations around. And with that, we're trying to understand like the problems that affected me as a child that held me back for so long. We're trying to understand what's going on in that community, and then maybe it won't hold other people back. And so right now, my study is rigorously dug into this idea of socioeconomic shaming having an effect on people's health by way of, the best way to say it is like fight or flight. By having that fight or flight inside you all the time, you know, it can hold you back as the individual that you are. It can hinder your spark inside and your physical, you know, health. So that is who I am right now.
And I could see on your eyes when you talk about diamonds and Talbots, I could see the Flint on the back of your eyes. You know, you have that Flint thing, right?
Yeah, I love the Flint. I remember reading studies from like over 10 years ago that said that the Flint was one of the #1 places in the entire country for the youth to grow up. And when I was growing up there, I was displaced from my family, from my direct family, my mother and my father and my brother. And being in the Flint, it made it accessible for me to get to school, well, try to get to school, to get a job, to try to get to the dentist, to try to receive birth control, and all those things are accessible in the Flint neighborhood. It's just knowing that the resources are there, having people connect you with them, and I think that's really important. And I love the Flint. Even though it's a dangerous neighborhood, I feel safe there. I know where I'm going, I know who to deal with, who not to deal with, and
we kind of, it's like we recognize every face.
Yes.
On the Flint, and we know when it's a new face.
Right.
We know that this person just moved into the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing because it's thousands of people, you know?
Yes. And we're like, hold on, you weren't around here before. And it kind of takes a little while for those people also to get conditioned to what's really going on there too. Sometimes people are like, oh, it's so nice, and oh, it's so great. And it's like, yeah, it is, but just be careful.
Yeah.
You know, that's the best way to put it.
So, and you think that today, because you just mentioned your teenager years, you think now they are better? So the kids growing up on the Flint now, they were better? I mean, we're just talking about maybe 10 years difference. But
I think that it's so different.
yeah.
I really do. I think that it has went 180 degrees, because at one time, a lot of kids could walk up and down the streets together, maybe even by yourself, and go to the corner store and buy penny candies. You know, like even if you only had 25 cents, like you could, or 50 cents, you could definitely go get yourself a snack. And to be safe, you could walk up to the Lafayette pool and swim all day long by yourself. And now it's not like that. You really should not let your children walk to the store by themselves or even up to the pool by themselves, just because there's all these other factors that can happen, you know, like Amy Blanchett, one of our good friends, you know, like she was getting off the bus last year and there was a stabbing on the bus at her stop where she was getting out right in front of the bank on Pleasant Street. And it's like, what if a kid was getting off the school bus then, you know, like kids from high school do take public transportation. Granted, you know, adults and stuff aren't on the bus at those early morning times, but when I get out of class at BCC, when I was there, I rode the bus with a lot of high school kids. And it's very easy to see things get out of hand.
And I lived there for 30 years. I mean, 30 years ago, I moved into the Flint, and that's why I call the Flint my house. I just go home to sleep, and at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm back on Pleasant Street again.
Yeah.
So, but just like you know, we know that we have problems. We know that some areas are not safe. But just like you said, we feel safe on the Flint.
Yes.
So it's people don't understand when we say that it's dangerous. It's some areas are dangerous, but on the other side we say but we feel safe on the Flint. So
I think it's because we're conditioned differently than a lot of different places. Like we have real cultural, like it goes like this. I don't know how to say it in words, but it goes like this. We have so many different communities here. We have a lot of gang affiliations, and like people are very aware. Everybody knows what's going on. They're aware of each other, and sometimes that awareness is what creates the confrontation. You're a little bit too aware, a little bit too much what people are doing, and then just judgments just keep happening and happening and happening. So I think that's where a lot of it gets mixed up.
Because, I mean, we always say this, that we know that we have a problem on the Flint. We know that we have not a problem, we have problems on the Flint. But in the meantime, we try to just say that people are still safe on the Flint. And it's like we kind of going backwards on what we just trying to say.
So what I think of that is that in a lot of urban communities where there's a lot of dangerous things that are going on, crime, sex trafficking, underage prostitution and stuff like that, they try to keep it in one neighborhood. Therefore, they think that it is able to be more controlled and monitored. And I know police officers and people who work in the city, and I've been told before that that's what they try to do. They try to keep all the really bad crime in the Flint. Why is it that right where we put a park, there's underage sex trafficking going on knowingly in a public business, that people go to all the time? And it just continues to happen. So it's like, all right, are we part of the solution or are we part of the problem? I know we can't just go in and eliminate people. You can't just go in and raid everybody's houses and stuff like that. But it doesn't have to be said like, okay, this is that known area and we're just gonna badger people, anyone who's in that neighborhood. Okay, we have that problem, but like then the businesses aren't making money. And like that's why the problem's like that. You have a business in the Flint for a little while, but then it just keeps happening. They let the panhandlers come into businesses and ask for money. You have the, I'm sorry to be raw and say prostitutes and hookers, but they'll go right up into business too. You have people from outside communities, like people from Cambridge aren't gonna come to Pleasant Street to your restaurant or to your business when you have all this unsightliness going on. And I think what defines it from Boston, from New York and stuff is here people don't care. The homeless people do not care about going up to you in your business right from your car, whether they can't speak or not, and ask you for money and then yell at you afterward. Okay? I've had a deaf person yell at me.
But something, and we have the report from the police every month on our neighborhood meetings, and we dropped probably 10 arrests from last year. Comparing last year to this year, the same month we dropped about 12 arrests.
Any progress is good progress, I believe.
And the arrests on the summer months are higher than winter months because everybody's out. Everybody's doing stuff they're not supposed to, but now they're doing outside.
I even heard that when it's raining out, there's less crime.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. All right. So, I get it. I don't want to go out in the rain either.
But I think that the problem, we identified the problem, but we need to identify citywide we have a problem.
Yes.
And drug addiction it's eating half of that budget Doesn't matter if it's for the police department. Half of the budget is going for.
You know, Carlos, why do you got to talk about this with me? This is something I feel very strongly about, okay? Because it affects a lot of people, but yet, even though it's a problem, it benefits so many people, all right? And by who it benefits is like pharmaceutical companies and the doctor's offices around here and the doctors that are there. You know, a lot of people are making money off the prescriptions that they're giving people, knowing that they shouldn't give people medication and still doing it. Or, you know, Narcan, for a great example, went from $20 on the market to now it's $300. Why is something that's made to save lives has such a price inflation? You know, why does everybody want to benefit from people dying from drugs?
Because now everybody can use it. The police can use it, the fire department can use it. So you know how many who can be sold can be sold now?
Well, they should have to carry nitroglycerin too. Okay, they should have to take a lot more certifications then. That's what I really think. And if they have to go to every single call, from what I hear, that's what I hear happens, like they have to go to every overdose call and try to revive the person. If they should do that, then they should have EMT training. They should know phlebotomy. You know, if you're gonna be able to do stuff like that, I think that what it means to be a police officer needs to be extended significantly.
And the problem is that I really don't see a solution for this problem near. It's,
no,
you know, everybody talks about, everybody tries to do a little bit here. I mean, it's 10 organizations out there that are trying to help these people.
Yes.
You know, and you know, dozens of people dedicating time, donating their own time to belong to these organizations, to just to inform prevention and you know, and to try to get those calls and direct those people. But I don't think it's resulting.
I think it's really tough because everybody, when we talk about this problem, wants to talk about how there's so many other problems with other people and how those things need attention first. But you know, they don't realize this is the first time in like mankind that, you know, the white race has been taken out by so significantly by one single thing that isn't even warfare. You know, the white race is diminishing extremely fast. White males in particular are dying more than anything from the opioid epidemic. And I also agree that we can't quite find the solution for it because it's so ingrained in part of our life right now. Because what happens? You get hurt, you want to go to the doctor and you want to get pain medicine. People don't know how to process. They don't know how to have pain and understand, okay, what is this, what to do with it. I mean, I don't want to start getting all crazy about like other races and stuff like that, but the Chinese believe that you can create emptiness inside of your body and in your mind, that you can make pain not exist no matter what someone does to you. So we need to encourage people to be stronger on the inside, but in a way that cultivates that strength. Not saying you're weak and you need to be stronger because you suck right now. And here's some medication. You know, like that doesn't work for me.
So you know that Portugal, the drug problem dropped, you know, for half or less than half since they opened those centers that if you want to use drugs, you go in there. But guess what? When you go in, that's your responsibility. We're not going to use anything to bring you back. That's your responsibility. That's your choice.
Okay, that's one thing. If they're saying that they get to go in there and whatever happens, happens, like that's one thing. But I don't feel that people around here are getting the impression that that's what's going to happen. I think that people around here are getting the impression that people get to go, they have a safe, clean place to go do that, and they can do whatever, and if they die, they can be brought back. And it doesn't matter how many times, and that they'll continue to do that. And I don't know about that.
I mean, it was not too long ago that
and then it's
I
like
saw this
you
report.
can't even put a number on it. Like, actually think about it. If you were to say you only get 10 Narcan shots after, there are going to be people that argue that number, that are going to say, nope, 1 isn't enough, 10 isn't enough, and because of the price of a human life. You know, like that's. And if we wanted to argue about fetuses, like that's why the government cares so much about the fetuses, because of potential, you know, potential inside of people that can be activated.
One thing that, and I was just mentioning because it was not too long ago that I read something about in Fall River, the cops got called 5 times to save these people's life. 5 times in one day. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, this person needs help, but this person knows that every time, this person or anybody else, that they don't know that could be the last time. So, I mean, when they make that decision, when they make that choice, they know this could be my last time.
I have heard and watched documentaries too, even shows on A&E like Intervention, that particularly there's these 2 twins, and they said that when they find out that people overdose, they go and seek out the person that person got the drugs from, because they want to get as close to like that high as possible. Now, I don't know about that stuff, but that's what I hear. Yeah. So I think that's why there's so much of it, because they're chasing the super strong stuff, even though everybody's warning them against it.
Medication that was sold over the counter before, they have it back the counter now.
Yeah.
You go and buy, and you're an artist, you know, you go and buy a can of paint at Walmart or somewhere else, they're gonna request you a license.
Yep. I mean,
they want to know how many cans you buy a day.
That's what's really hard about it, is because people are very creative. A lot of times, people who do drugs are stigmatized as like dumb and idiots, but it is actually the complete opposite. Think about this, Carlos. You have no money. You don't have anything. That person who's a drug addict can survive a lot longer than you can with nothing, because they are extremely resourceful. You know, they have their buddies, they have this, and they think outside of the box, and they manage to get what they need every single day. So it's really not about being stupid. It's about priorities. And that, fulfilling whatever inside of them is missing or needs to be there or has to be there, like, I really think that's what it is. It's a priority inside of them. And it continues to happen because the problem that was there hasn't been changed at all.
And another thing that I think too is the system is failing on the people that want to recover.
Absolutely.
The system, we don't have a system that will be constant to help this person. I mean, this person could take 10 years to become clean and say, you know, you're using it, but I don't want to use it.
But other countries, such as like Switzerland, they do not use the Suboxone program like we do. They use the Suboxone program for like 2 weeks. And we have people on Suboxones for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You know, like it takes 2 weeks to break a habit like that and to get it out of your system. You know, I would like to know if we could adopt some of the ideas that they're doing over there, over here. I mean, we've seen great strides in getting people off opiates by using marijuana. In Maine, there's a lot of programs that are using high levels of concentrated THC to get people off of heroin, and that is really working. You know, I think that could be investigated.
And I had mentioned this on other shows that I was guests, and I believe here too, that I don't mind to spend $1 million, but instead of spending $1 million with 1,000 people and get no results, I prefer to spend $1 million with 100 people that will get results.
Right.
And move from there. I had mentioned this in different shows, because the problem is we want to help, and we don't care if we put money into that program to help these people. But I don't think it's a system that follows that
what
first
it really
step.
wants.
You know, that to keep this person out of.
I agree with you. As a youth in Fall River, I am 29 years old. I'm going to be 30. I do not have any children. That is.
I thought you were 16.
Thanks. And I don't have any children. That's actually pretty rare for around here. But, you know, and that's because I actively made sure that that didn't happen. But when I was young and had nowhere to go and had no place to live and was like sleeping in my car or at my friend's house or at my boyfriend at the time's parents' house, you know, like I had nothing. When I went in to get assistance to try to get an apartment on my own or anything, they said, "Are you pregnant or on drugs?" And I said, "No, I'm trying to go to school. I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm working 2 jobs." Like, and at the time, I was only like 17. I wasn't old enough even legally to get an apartment by myself.
So it's
you can't get a cell phone. You can't do anything. And then you wonder why people go down a bad path. You wonder why girls end up getting pregnant or why they start doing drugs. And that's why, because you're saying, you're not going to give me help unless I do this negative thing and this negative thing.
I mean, and I know for a fact that Social Security is helping people that are having different addresses, because on the system, they cannot live together. So guess what? They're still living together, but they have 2 separate addresses, and they have the assistant.
I mean, and I understand, like, it is hard in this world. Like, trust me, like, I have to feed myself every single day all by myself. Like, it is hard. And I understand why some people do reap those benefits. I see the dynamic, I see their struggle, but I also see their priorities too. You know, and we all have people that we hang with because they're priorities, and ones we don't hang out with because of their priorities.
And I know you belong to, or you're part of a project now that are, and we're going to bring them here for a show so we can use half an hour just talking about the program. But you think that you became part of it because, you know, number 1 was the Flint, and number 2 was because your backgrounds, and you know that with that project you could help other people?
I think so. I was actually the last resident researcher to get put onto it, and I was referred. So somehow, some way, they found me. You know, Eric and Amy, I think, had a lot to do with that, and they know my passion for the Flint and my pride for it, and, you know, like, I'm always on foot. You know, so I spent a lot of time like running around through that neighborhood, you know, so I do think that that helped it a lot. And because of that experience and growing from it, I think it made me more passionate about wanting to give back to my community and try to just take what I have inside and try to share it with other people, and maybe it will make a difference.
Because you are a live testimony. What they're looking for.
I guess so. I don't really like thinking of myself like that. Too many times I've been called the exception to the rule, but that's, I think, just because I'm just like totally not fun.
It's done for this week. We promise we'll come back for next week again. Carlos and Katrina, Neighborhood News. I see you next week. Thank you.